Hickok 45. Is that a pretty table of firearms or what? Colt single actions in 45 Colt caliber. Gorgeous. We have all three generations represented there. We have the first generation, which this particular gun was made in about 1901, early in the 20th century. And then we have a second generation representative here. 1964 is when that one was made. And then we move on up about 30 years to 1994 when that third generation Colt was made. So we're going to feature the second generation Colt. And why don't we just go ahead and load him up. Let me get some ammo over here and we'll put some in him. Okay, put him on half cock. We'll load one, skip one, and put another one in, and a fifth one in. We're going to cock it, and it's going to go click, and the next one is not going to go click. So let's put the ears on and just take a couple of shots with this gorgeous baby. Okay, let's shoot something red. And I see a Desperado down there. All right, right in the heart. Oh, someone hung up a lid to a can, a 55-gallon drum. John must have put that up there, thought even I could hit that. How about an orange 2-liter? And that was 5, right? Yes. Did he fire 4 or did he fire 5? Yeah, Hickok 45, as I told you already. And I am shooting and featuring one of my favorite firearms. This happens to be a new one. That's part of the reason we're here. Okay, this is, well, when I say new, that's relatively speaking, made in 1964, but it's a new Colt single action to me, to the compound. Okay, made a little trade, gosh, it's been 2-3 months ago, I guess now. And this might be my best, well, I think it is probably my best second generation Colt, and that's the topic, mainly the subject of today's endeavor and discussion, okay, and shooting second generation Colts. All right, with a little perspective on where they fall, you know, in the history of things. Okay, they are generally considered to be one of the best made, or some of the best made Colts, period, the second generation Colts. And if you are a little clueless for some reason, you've not seen our Colt single action videos, well, maybe you'll learn something today. Maybe even if you have seen them, you'll learn a little bit more. Who knows? We have several adventures with Colt single actions. And I was looking through them and realized that I don't know that we have really done anything on just the second generation and talked about it specifically. Seems like whenever we've got these babies out, it's, I don't know, we're just shooting them all. We're shooting black powder. We're doing all sorts of things. But I wanted to focus mainly on that and give you a little more information on where they come from. And then, of course, this new gun, relatively new gun. And those grips are beautiful, aren't they? Those Stag. And those are some I had already. And you know, I just live under a lucky star. Let me put it that way. Most of the time, Colt grips are not interchangeable. They're not like Rugers or a lot of other firearms. I guess even the Ubertis, maybe the clones of the Colts. I don't know, but no two grips are exactly alike. They put the grips on and then they fashion it together with the backstrap and everything. Okay, grind them down, sand them. So they just, I could take all these off and interchange them and would have a horrible fit probably. But this was a pair I happened to have, and I thought, let me try this, see how close they are. Maybe I could do some grinding, maybe they'd fit, because I like these grips. They just don't fit well on anything I have. They're almost a perfect fit. Amazing. So they look good, and they fit. Amazing. Okay, so these are, and right here I'm firing some of my hand loads, of course, and I'll do a mixture of things. Some ammo that we bought when we were in Tombstone back in January. Some rounds that actually have the head stamp. Tombstone, how cool is that? Those were loaded in Tombstone, Arizona, and just had to have a box. Probably paid 2 prices for them, but I didn't care. It was quite a drive getting to Tombstone, right? if you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's not on the way to anywhere other than maybe Mexico, you know. So, but anyway, that was a neat trip. So that's a little memento. I may shoot a couple of those. And we've got, of course, Federal has supplied various types of full metal jacket. These are some 225 grain semi-wad cutters. We've shot these. We'll shoot some of those perhaps. Okay. We appreciate the sponsorship from Federal for sure, as well as Bud's Gun Shop. So check the links. You'll see the link to budsgunshop.com. They sell a lot of guns, and we appreciate their support. So thank you. It's fall in Tennessee, and you know why they call it fall? Because things fall from the trees. So maybe I won't get a walnut or hickory nut on top of my head here. All right, so let's get serious. And if you don't know what this generation talk is about, let me kind of keep it simple as I can, because I'm simple-minded. But first generation started out in basically 1873, you know, when they went to the cartridges and everything. Colt did 45, you know, Colt cartridge and metallic cartridge in this gun, 1873. It was a military adopted firearm, you know. Ooh, it's an evil military pistol, right? 1873. First generation. Now, I don't think they probably called them first generation Colts, right? Until we had other generations. But 1873 through around 1940. That's a pretty long time, huh? And they didn't make as many of them in the last few years. And then especially when World War II came along, what do you think Colt needed to be doing? Well, they needed to be focusing on military armament. And there wasn't a lot of call for these in World War II, although I understand we shipped the British quite a few of them, you know, anything we could get to them. But so when World War II came along, they started making military armaments at a faster pace, of course, and they just had to, you know, let this slide. They put the tooling away for the Colt single actions and forgot about it for a while. And I think sales had waned anyway, dropped off. Well, then we get into, you know, post-World War II and the 50s. And what do you remember about the 50s? Some of you, nothing, right? But in the 50s, we had these Westerns showing up on television. Television, a new thing too. And all these great Westerns, movies, the series, you name it. There you go. They're still on the Westerns channel. You know, we still watch them, a lot of us do, don't we? Well, that was the heyday of Westerns. And so they were mostly carrying Colt single actions in those Westerns, however accurate or inaccurate that was, you know, because there were other firearms, but, you know, the Colt was dominant. But you had your Smith & Wesson, you know, your Schofields, you had all those other pistols too, the Remingtons. But in the movies, for some reason, they just kind of ignored all those others, and everybody's packing a Colt single action. So here you are every Saturday morning, especially, and any time you're watching a movie, you get all these close-ups of these cool Colt single action, you know, revolvers and how they operate. People loading them and unloading them and shooting the bad guys and hunting down the bad guys and bank robberies and train robberies and all that. So guys my age and gals too, we grew up with a steady diet of that. And so in the mid-50s, Colt said, maybe we need to start making those things again. And they did. In 1956, they started another run, and that's why we call it the second generation. And they just dragged out the tooling that they had been making these with from the first generation. So they're made essentially the same. There's virtually no difference between the second and the first generation guns. Very few differences. Using the same tools, the same jigs and everything. And just started up again. They changed the serial numbers on them. They put an SA at the end of the serial number. They started over with the numbers, and they put an SA for single action maybe after the number. So that's one indication. If you're ever looking at these things and you're wondering, is that a second generation or first or third, look for this SA. And of course you'll be able to tell by the price too. All right. Although the first and second generation guns they can all be very expensive. Just depends on the condition and the year. They're kind of like a coin. Just depends on the condition and of course the age. Serial number tells you when it was made. You can look up the serial number just like you can on most modern firearms. So then, we're still at second generation, of course. So 56 through 74, actually, is that time period. And if you talk to people and study, you'll see that as they got into the 70s, they really weren't doing as some of them were some shoddy work. In fact, I traded one that was made in 73 or 74 for this gun. And I had to pay some boot because it wasn't as well made. It was okay, and it was beautiful, but it wasn't as well made. I had to do some slickening up on the action. And I couldn't find grips to fit it. The grip was really oversized, and the guy I traded to, I told him, you know, I've not been able to find grips to fit it yet, and but it was a nice gun, just not as nice as this one. So some of the best quality Colt single actions are the second generation, especially the ones made in the 50s and the 60s, okay? And then, you know what, while I'm at this gun, let me shoot it again. Can I take a break from my little history lesson? Because let's use some, let me show you, it will fire jacketed ammo, okay? We have a little bit left from Federal. Now, if Wyatt Earp is watching from up above, he might think this is a little sacrilegious to shoot jacketed ammo in a Colt single action, but that's okay, it's fine. It is a modern gun. You can shoot modern ammo in these second generation, and well, anything made basically after 1900. You don't have to have black powder in them. Okay, but you get back before 1900, then you got to start thinking about that, and that's a whole nother subject. So we're going to shoot jacketed ammo. Okay, let's put a couple on that target here. Let's see. Now I think this one shoots just a little bit high. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, I'm holding just below the bullseye. Yeah, I like the point of aim. I really got lucky on this. Let's go ahead and shoot that pot. I'm going to take him down slowly. Yeah, I want it to be a slow process. So it'll last a little longer. Oh, click, click. This is lucky. Now, generally you don't run into a bad point of aim impact with them. Sometimes though, and that was another thing about the other one I traded for this, it was a 7.5 inch barrel. And it shot fine, but it shot significantly high, which is unusual, at least the ones I've had, for the 7.5 inch barrel. They tend to shoot right on more often than the others. But all of them will have a tendency, if you talk to people that own these, they will tell you that most of them do shoot above point of aim, okay? And they'll also tell you that that was the way Colt meant for them. You know, I don't know if that's true or not. You know, the bad guy, you hold it on his belt buckle, you know, and get him in the chest, whatever, you know. But I like them to shoot pretty much straight on or just a little bit high. This one is exactly what the doctor ordered. I mean, if I had literally to order it from Colt, said, here's where I want the point of aim to be when you hold the sights on the target, this is it. So I lucked out in a lot of ways on this baby. Cool. Okay, so where did I end up in my history lesson? Okay, so I'm a second generation up through 56 through 74, before I was rudely interrupted by the need to have to fire one. And then in 74, the tooling for these things, I've been using it for decades, before World War II and everything to make them, began to get worn, and that might be part of the reason the quality kind of fell off in the 70s. And also interest maybe, to some extent. And so they took a couple years off. They quit making them after, in 74, late 74, whenever it was, and took a couple years to retool. And then started again, I think a couple years later, around 80 or 74. No, excuse me, 76. I'm in trouble with numbers today. So roughly 76, they started making them again. And so then that's called the third generation, all right? And that's one of them, again, 94. And there were periods in the third generation where the quality was not so good, definitely. And probably in the latter parts of, I don't know, the 90s, one problem they had too was the rising cost to make these things in the second generation, and interest was falling off a little bit, and they were just really expensive to make, and the tooling was wearing. And so they took those couple years to kind of get it back together, and they did a couple of things to make them a little bit less expensive to make, redesigned a little bit. But now the thing to remember about these things is they're essentially the same firearm. There is very little difference. You notice the cylinder is a two-piece affair here, and that's the way the first generation guns are, okay? And in the third, when they started making the third generation guns, and in order to reduce costs a little bit, they changed that to all one piece. See, that bush in there doesn't come out, okay? Now I think they've returned to that though. to where that's a separate piece. And from what I have heard, some of the newer ones that are being made are some of the really best made. Now, that may be a myth, I don't know. But they did a few things like that to cut costs a little bit. But nothing dramatic, nothing dramatic. That's the cool thing about these. You can buy a first generation or a third generation, and they're really the same gun, essentially. Just few changes. You may not like that because they didn't upgrade springs and things very much, other than maybe material. They haven't gone to, like Ruger's will last forever, of course. They're tanks. They've got coil springs and things where these have leaf springs, so you might break one of these springs someday, but that's okay. I rarely have ever had that happen. Maybe once, maybe never that I can remember. Maybe one weakened on me a little bit, but they tend to last pretty well if you take care of them. You always cock them all the way back before you let the hammer down. Treat them with respect, treat them properly, and they do tend to last. But so while there are a few changes, they're still great. The finish, maybe not as nice in some cases, but they're great guns no matter what generation you're talking about. And so are a lot of the clones. Some of the clones are pretty amazing. If you've seen the recent Uberti video we did, that gun is high quality, no doubt about it. But we're talking about Colts today, though. Okay, so you kind of got that. So in around 76, they started the third generation of these things, and they're still making them. Okay, they never, since 1873, with just a couple of interruptions, these things have been made for all that time, and they just never go away. People like them, like the design. They're fun to shoot. They're just good firearms, no doubt about it. And boy, the history in these things, it doesn't matter what generation you pick up, they just reek of history. I'm not going to shoot all the others, I guess, but they all kind of shoot the same. They're great. Okay, half cock. Let's try some of this stuff. These are some 225 grain. These be my defensive ammo, I guess. They're kind of a hollow point, right? Yeah. So when I start carrying this as my carry gun, it would be funny. Go take a carry class, permit class, and have this in a shoulder holster. And I think some states they won't allow single action. I might be wrong. Okay. I bet you in Texas they would. Okay. We got some targets that need shooting here. Like, how about some 2 liters sitting right up there? Oh. All right. And you too, buddy. Whoop, I'm at the wrong angle. I better not shoot that. Oh, there's a little cinder activity down there. Yeah, these have a little punch to them. I think I'm empty. Yeah, these do. They have a little, that would be a good carry round. Not bad. Another thing, try and give you a little more information than just have fun shooting this time, because I just get carried away when I have these out. And I become a cowboy, in my mind and in my heart, I guess. You may have seen some of these long-barreled ones. And if you watch some of the old series, like the Wyatt Earp series that's running now on the Westerns channel, Hugh O'Brien plays Wyatt Earp. He's carrying, I mean, this horrible Buntline special in a holster down about to his knee. Got a barrel, I guess it's about 12 inches long. And I think he's carrying 2 guns. One of them's that Buntline special. Ned Buntline wrote dime novels back in the day, and dramatized, glorified everything, any way to sell, any way to make them sell, right? Hey, we're kind of used to that with media, right? The first thing to do is get people to watch, get people to buy it, get people to read it, whatever it is, okay? And so that happened back then just as it does today. And there's really no evidence, based on my reading, everybody I read, and I read Venturino, Mike Venturino is one of the experts on these firearms. He's written several books. I read them all. Don't remember anything he wrote, but I read them all. I think he touches on that too, and everybody does, that, yeah, Ned Buntline wrote the dime novels, but and there's reports that he might have ordered some of those from Colt and gave them to some frontier marshals. But there's like no evidence of it, or I don't think, unless somebody's uncovered something since, and especially that Wyatt Earp carried one, or even used one. You read about the OK Corral from historical reports. There's no report of that, but but yet all the movies, they want to have him with that long barrel Buntline special. And they make them. Colt makes them. They make it in second generation, I think. They made about 4,000 of those Buntline specials with a 12-inch barrel. The most ungainly thing you can imagine. I wouldn't want one for $200, you know, and they probably sell for who knows what, $2,000 now. But anyway, little tip there, if you see the Buntline special, that's either mostly myth or entirely myth, okay? So, what are we gonna shoot next? Hey, you know what? We gotta shoot these tombstones, don't we? Shoot a couple of these. Man, this is neat. This thing, I really probably shouldn't shoot it. The case hardening and everything is still really nice. The finish, it's not been refinished. It's just in good shape. So I do need to take good care of this and not throw it in the washing machine and not leave it out here lying in the gravel when I'm finished or anything like that, like I normally do Glocks. I need to take good care of this thing because, you know, and not let it be cleaned by the rain like I normally do. Okay. Usually I just spray a little ballast on most firearms and leave them out here in the gravel. You believe that? All right. Let's see, what have I got in there? I'm not sure. I haven't shot these things in months and months. I'm not sure what the point of impact is. We'll put a couple on that paper. I'll hold the same place and see where they go. Or I'll try to, put it that way. Okay, it went pretty well. All right, should have. Good shot there. That's pretty bad. Missed a 2-liter at whatever, 5 yards. You can miss with anything, though. You can miss at any distance. There's no doubt about it. All right, big old 45 cases. Gosh, I wonder how many of these things I've shot in my life, and I never grow tired of it. These things are just gorgeous. So we don't want to shoot too many of those. Now also I'll need to fish out that brass. I want to save that tombstone brass. That's just kind of a collector's thing. Let's shoot some more of these Federal, if they were nice enough to send us these. Yeah. We might even take a couple shots across the hill. Don't you think we need to shoot at the gong with this thing? Has a nice trigger, and the sights are on, so you know, if I miss, it's just on me. All right, I think if I hold near the bottom, it'll be about right. Oh, what a sound. Nice. Nice. That rocked it. Definitely. Let's hit the propane. Let's hit a goat. Or try to. In front of it. There we go. We killed him on the last shot. That should be 5. Oh boy. I hope John doesn't get tired because I might just stay out here all evening shooting these things. Gorgeous. The history. What have I neglected to tell you about this? That, one thing, you always want to be, especially with these old guns, especially if it is a Colt, even if it's a clone, you don't want to booger up your screws. So get gunsmithing screwdrivers, get good screwdrivers before you work on them. And you can take these things totally apart. But I'll tell you where you see them boogered up the most is where people have had trouble, because it's kind of ticklish. If you're going to take the cylinder out, you saw me do that. I didn't talk you through it, but you know, make sure it's empty, of course. And then you push the transverse button there, and then you pull that out. Okay. Now, what happens, it can be tight, and I have seen these things, even the Colts, older Colts, newer Colts, and that button, I mean, this whole barrel is all scratched up. It looks like someone hit it with a file and banged on it and everything else because they got mad and couldn't get that out, grabbed it with pliers, you name it. Well, they make this little tool if you do have trouble, and I'm not sure what it's called, but it's you just stick it right there in that little groove, and you know, I don't have that push or anything, but and it pries it out, and the only pressure is like right on the frame. So just be aware that if you have one, don't mess up the barrel, because once you do that, it's messed up, and make sure you can get that out. If it's really tight, I would even take it to someone else or a gunsmith and get it out the first time. And what I do, one thing you can do too, is make sure you got the button push, and you can get a piece of wood, a dowel or something that won't scratch it, and put it through the other end, and kind of, it's tricky to do, but I've done it before, one that's really tight. Hold the button down and then tap from the back end, you know, because that's what you'd love to be able to do anyway, and to get it out that first time. And then I'll take, if they need it, I will take some steel wool and I'll work on it, and maybe it's just a little oversized or something to where it actually comes out. I will not tolerate a base pin. That's what that pin is. It's the base pin. I will not tolerate one that won't come out, or that is very difficult to get out. I will reduce the size of it till it comes out okay. I will risk it falling out if I have to, okay? Let's shoot a couple more. Let me shut up and shoot. How's that? Like I said, I might just shoot all night. Okay, 250 grain slugs. That's what these are. These are rounds of the day. And I'm not gonna shoot black powder in today, but yeah, maybe another day. All right, pretty much cleaned everything out, haven't we? Now I tend to shoot these with one hand whenever I'm shooting them, but I have shot a little bit here today with two. I don't know, I just normally shoot one-handed though. One of the beauties of this particular one, again, is it shoots right on, and the sights and the trigger are wonderful. It just really is. Let's just clear out a couple more things here, like the rest of that pot. Ah, nice ricochet. I was trying to do that. Let's just go ahead and hit him again, since he wants to be shot. Yeah, 45 will take it around, won't it? There's a plate. Boy, these sights are just dead on. I'm going to try to put one right in the middle of that tombstone. That's appropriate. Tombstone, right? Just thought of that. Okay, let's put one on that other plate back there. Oop, upper right. I think we have another round. Let's see if we do. No, we don't. Okay. Pretty cool. Man. Nice. Get those out. And again, as I pointed out, you don't have to struggle to get those out. They come right out. In the movies, they struggle. They act like they've never handled one of these things before. Probably some of them have not. And yeah, well, I got to shoot 5 more. Let me show you one other thing. I don't shoot like this generally, but there are people who can really shoot these things fast. Oop, I just still shoot load 5. It's just a habit I like to keep up. You could load 6 when you're on the range and shoot, but I like to keep that habit up. Okay, there we go. We've got videos on that too, if you don't know what I'm talking about. There are people that can take one of these things that practice it extensively, just like you or I might practice with other firearms, you know, Glocks or something. And they can really get the rounds out by, you know, with that, work the hammer with your left hand. And again, I never do it, but I'm going to try to shoot, just to show you, it will shoot a little bit faster. There are people who make these things shoot so fast, you think they must have a Glock in their hand or a modern pistol. H&K, Springfield. I got to quit saying Glock, right? Okay, so you cock it back with this thumb, so you can just keep it on target pretty much, and you know, use both hands with it. So you can shoot pretty fast that way if you want to. So, and then when you unload them, you just get that thing in your hand correctly, so you're not going to scratch anything, and knock those rounds out. Not that difficult. So, second generation, a little more information than you asked for probably, but that's okay. I get carried away when I have one of these in my hands. They're the romance, and you know what I mean by that, is just so thick. You know, you can cut it with a knife. When you have one of these in your hand, you fire it, it takes you back into history, just like an old muzzle loader does, or anything else. And we'll talk about an iconic firearm. If that's not, I don't know what is. The old Colt single action. And second generation, you know when they were made now? They were some of the very best ones, the very best quality. If you're going to invest in one, and you just want one, you want a really nice one, you want one that's definitely going to appreciate in value, you're thinking about buying an old Colt single action instead of some expensive coin or something, a first generation or a second generation, you can't go wrong. Get a nice one and shoot it though. Life is good.